Yo, what's up? This is Splendid Radio on Farside TV with my co-host Jeremy Scipio.
What's going on, people?
Oh man, you've been hitting stages for a minute, man. You don't forgot about us, boned out on us.
Yeah, I mean, we also had a, a nation, or I shouldn't say nation, statewide catastrophe that, that
Man,
affected things. Uh, but yeah, man, now I'm back with you. You know what I'm saying? So we up
yes,
in this
sir.
thing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But we
Yeah,
got a very
but
special guest tonight.
mm,
Um, I've said it to him a million times in the last week or so, man. He's so fucking punk rock. You know what I'm saying? We got Mr. Ramsey Jones. What's up,
Peace.
sir?
Peace. I'm great. I'm great. Living the life, man. Just grateful to live another day. That's all I can say.
Nah, dope. We gonna get in. We gonna get into your hip hop lineage and whatnot. But
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about your perspective because you're not. I'm not gonna date you or anything like that. But I'll say you definitely saw hip hop from the late '70s to the early '80s kind of turn into what we are able to appreciate the afterthought of. But when was the first time that you realized that hip hop was going to be a thing?
Um, I can tell you from when I was in my second semester of high school in 1979. I remember at the time, disco was like a bad word, and they were trying to kill off disco, and they even had like the disco sucks event in Comiskey Park in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw that, I was like, wow, man, like they've really tried, because disco was, it overwhelmed everything at the time, right? Then I think that summer when I got out of high school, for the summer, Sugar Hill Gang dropped their record, and Rapper's Delight. And I was like, yo, this is incredible. But besides that moment, before that, I heard like rappers like Spoonie G, Curtis Blow, Funky 4+1. But Rapper's Delight put hip hop on the map. It was
mhm.
so profound, it just hits the streets like a napalm bomb. When I went back into high school in the fall of '79, mind you, I had a friend that I had a befriended friend in my first semester, and he was very shy, didn't talk to anybody. His name was Andre. When we let out school for the summer, when I went back in for the fall, we were in the same class, Andre, and I never forget, he was rhyming Rapper's Delight. And I was
Mm.
shocked. I looked at him. I was like, "Yo, Andre, that was the first time we heard him like talk, but he was rapping." So I realized how profound hip hop music can like bring out things from people that they would normally, without it, they wouldn't normally be open to people in the class, because it was he was socially awkward. But when that record dropped, he was right to the hip hop in class. And I looked at him, and everybody else that knew him, they were like, "Yo, Andre, you actually talking? You're rhyming," and his it just brought his confidence out. So I
Mm,
knew from that point on, I said, "Yo, rap, this music is gonna like take over the industry." And people were
mhm.
putting it off as a fad at the time, and I was like, nah, because it all came from a lot of like the breakbeat music the
Mhm.
DJs were spinning in the park at the time. And I'm not talking about '79. I'm talking even way further back, because when I was growing up in Brownsville, I used to see bands in the park play, live bands,
Mm-hmm.
and DJs set up the equipment in the park in basketball courts, plug up into the light post and start like spinning break beats. This was back in 1974. So I was
So,
seeing it then, but
so,
it wasn't on record yet. So fast forward to '79, that's when labels like Enjoy and Sugar Hill Records, and I believe Bobby Robinson had a label. I think it was Enjoy.
You know, you're
But
talking
yeah,
about
those
memories that
labels
are 50 years
were they
old,
were
by the way.
signing these acts because it was like this was the music of the streets from the hood, the Bronx, and then and that was like where it originated from. But Brooklyn was also that was in the beginning where they were a part of the hip hop thing, and the
Were
Queens
you
also.
were you offended back then when because I know back then it was the wars of like where hip hop started. Like, were
I
you
wasn't
offended?
offended. I mean, I think well back then it wasn't like they weren't really talking about like, oh, it started here in Brooklyn or in Queens. I knew we all knew that it was from the Bronx
Okay.
because a lot of the DJs like Grandmaster Flash and African Bambaataa, we knew that's where they were all originated from. That was ground zero
Mhm.
of hip hop, So it went into like Brooklyn, all the other boroughs, Queens. So yeah, Bronx was where it started. So we can dispel that argument about where it started from. The Bronx was where it started from, no doubt.
Quick
But if
question.
you want to be correct, if you want to be really accurate about it, I can say this to be really accurate about it, Jamaica, because Jamaica
Jamaica.
had the DJs, had the toasters.
Mhm.
They were over the rapping over the mic. You Roy, all those people, all those cats. So there's a lineage from
Mhm.
Jamaica because Africa Mambata have Jamaican background. Um, Millie Grandmaster Flash, so they all I think Africa Mambata I think has a Jamaican background, but Kool Herc
Mhm.
has a Jamaican background. So he brought that DJ culture from Jamaica to the Bronx.
I got to share something, man.
Yeah.
Uh, that is when I love dance hall from the mid 70s up
Yeah.
into the
That was a classic
80s,
era.
kind of 90s, when they
Yep.
started mixing the dance hall with more samples and all that stuff, like late
Hmm.
80s and 90s. That's when it kind of was just like, oh man. And then it just turned into something totally different right now, where it's like, man, it's just something totally different, you know.
But for me, music has to evolve. And I have no qualms about it. I know it's 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 it gets to a point where music changes so much that you're like, oh man, it's not like what it used to be. But there has to be evolution
Mm-hmm.
to it, and for it to have like longevity. But sometimes things can like make it the music can like devolve into something like that strips it away from its original intent, because I mean, yeah, I love that period from like the mid 70s, 80s, and then the early 90s, and then after that it just like it changed. That's what music usually does. Things have to evolve, or devolve.
I have a I have two topics I want to bring up.
Yeah.
I think this is the complete evolution of hip hop, and it's two current topics. Like it's really important.
Yeah.
The first one is I don't know if you've heard about the FBA versus Fat Joe. You hear about that?
The what?
So the FBA, Fat Joe's on this podcast recently where he was, he has this beat that he had to get off his chest. It stems from the origins of hip hop. There's a group. This is all his record.
Right.
I do some more research and give you a better answer. But basically, Fat Joe is upset that this FBA, which basically stands for the Foundational Black Association, something like that. Basically,
Mhm.
Black American born Black people feel like that hip hop is their thing, and other cultures are trying to take credit for it. Specifically, um, Fat Joe, who's of Latin descent, you
Mhm.
know, and he's saying that Fat Joe's like he's super old school,
Mhm. Yeah, I
but
know.
he's
Oh,
offended
hold on a second,
because
Jeremy.
yeah,
Fat Joe is not super old school. Or
You
maybe I'm dating
sure?
myself. Or maybe I'm dating
Flo,
myself.
Flojo?
Golden is old school. Golden is old school. Joe is like late 90s. You know what I'm saying?
Not late 90s, bro. That's my era. He was not part of that. He was before that. Flojo is like
Yeah,
90.
93,
90.
94.
I
yeah,
think it's 90, like
yeah.
zero. Like,
All right.
yeah.
All right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, look, I'm clear on music that's before my time.
Hmm.
But yeah, Fat Joe, he was around during that, you know what I mean? He's you talk about LL Cool J, Busta Rhymes,
Yeah.
people who was rhyming that time period. These are his, you talk about before your DMXs, before your Tupacs and all that. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So he's highly offended by that. He was saying like, he's going really hard at the foundational black people, whatever. And he was saying that Latin people are people that brought hip hop to America. That's Fat Joe's thing. So
Well,
I wonder what's your
I
take on
can
that?
I can say this: it wasn't just Latin people. Blacks and Puerto Ricans were interlinked with the culture. They were all involved in the genesis of hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just blacks; it was Puerto Ricans. And matter of fact, there's a documentary about the I'm trying to remember. There was this gang in the Bronx.
I know what you're
Uh,
talking about.
yeah, and the
They were like
Warriors
Puerto Rican.
movie was based on this guy Osiris death, but the
Mm-hmm.
the actual person that was in this that was murdered, he tried to unite the gangs
Are you talking about the
and stop
Warriors?
them from. I'm sorry.
Talking about the Warriors?
Yeah, but I'm talking about the original, the person they based it on.
Oh, that they based it. Okay.
Yeah, because he was actually murdered by another gang, but he was there to try to unite all the gangs and make them realize that they're destroying their neighborhood. So uh, I'm trying to remember the gang, um, and they put out a record too. They put out a record, and it'll come to me. It'll come to me. But they basically had stopped all the gangs from. They had brought all the gangs together and said, "Look, they were playing outdoor festivals in the Bronx on the streets, and they wanted people to come together and stop like destroying the neighborhoods because there was gangs on every block at the time. I grew up in that era, so there were gangs in my neighborhood on every block, and you had to like fight your way to get just to go to the corner store because you get robbed. They're like, yo, you got any money? All I find, all I keep. And you're standing there like getting your pockets rifled through. But yeah, it was I forgot the name of the gang, man. It's like I gotta Google them. So, but yeah, they put out an album, which is like they were like the Bronx Beatles. That's what
Mm-hmm.
I call the music was like Latin, but it was like Beatle overtones.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and when the leader of that gang was he was actually trying to unite all the gangs to stop fighting, stop destroying the neighborhood, and they held concerts outside, and this in effect switched everyone around. All the uh, blacks were coming together, like African Bambaataa, DJ Kool Herc. He was coming from Jamaica, and he brought the DJ culture. He bought the whole DJ culture, the two turntables and spinning records, but he wasn't like mixing. He was more like playing records, going into like playing different styles of music, but they weren't really mixed.
Mm-hmm.
But he had the records, and then African Bambaataa he was in the Black Spades at the time too. So he said, "Hey man, we got to stop warring with each other." So he took the lead of I forgot the guy, Benji. That's his name, Benji.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the gang leader's name,
Mm-hmm.
Benji something. It'll come to me. But yeah, I mean, they wanted to cut out the violence, and from that they were able to use music as a vehicle to like stop the violence and get people to break dance, and that's how that was like the way of battling against each other. They would break dance against each other. The B-boys, B-girls, instead of fighting and warring and
Gang
whatnot, they
banging.
would do it through dance, put out the cardboard box on the floor and break into break beats. That was their way of like doing it without violence. And art and graffiti, that was another form. So Hispanics and blacks were together in it from the beginning.
From the beginning
It
of
wasn't
hip
just
hop.
blacks, it was Hispanic and blacks.
Okay. Because yeah, look, like I said, this is all brand new to me as far as like even this argument. But yeah, it's the foundational black authority. Fat Joe called them broke black racist because they want to cut out I guess
Yeah, but he's
Hispanic
right.
influence on hip
Yeah,
hop.
and
The
Lord
roots of hip
Jamar,
hop.
he's
Yeah.
another one. He actually put out a
Georgia.
record recently
Yeah,
that,
elephant in the room.
yeah, I'm like, yo, I couldn't even listen to it because it's like, how do you dismiss Puerto Ricans' contributions to that art form when
Now,
blacks and Puerto Ricans were in it together? That just like didn't make any sense to me. I couldn't even listen to the song, but it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate because I saw it. I was there.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah,
I love punks jump up to get beat down. Brand Nubian,
right.
one of my love me or leave me alone.
Me too.
Brand Nubian, one of my favorite groups. But where okay, and then I gotta correct it because I fall in the category. Foundational Black Americans is what it is. Foundational Black Americans, which their grandparents were slaves or great grandparents were slaves, whatever. But
maybe this is a spinoff or something. But yeah.
No, I wouldn't spin off. Fat Joe.
No, I'm talking about this right here. It says I just looked it up. It said Foundational Black Authority, but they radicalized things. So I get it.
Fat Joe radicalized it when he was on Math Hoffa's podcast, and he was dissing him, and he was just spitting out anything, and he said, the Foundational Black Association are these broke, dusty, he started going off. But you know the funny thing though?
Yeah.
In retrospect, I'm not gonna say Joe was cocky, but it's probably like somebody who got into a car accident and did a hit and run. And then after they did the hit and run, it was like, damn, I probably should have stayed. It wouldn't even be that bad. Oh man, they piled it on him, man. It's like I feel like with the political election year and just everything, I think people have kind of been riled up since COVID, like getting freedom, like having your freedom taken away from you, then you get your freedom back. And man, Joe just said the wrong thing at the wrong time. And
he had to step down. He was supposed to host the BET Awards. He stepped down.
Yeah. And man, they piled on him, man. They piled on him. And he tried, and the funny thing, he's a cocky, outspoken guy. And I guess his team or whoever it was, there was really no rebuttal to it at all, man. He just, I guess, you know what though? Because he's one of those people, because I saw when he was doing his podcast and stuff during COVID, he would have like liquor sponsors and soda sponsors and stuff like that.
Right.
And I just think for someone like him, when people talk to you that got money, that's when you listen. And somebody probably just said, dude, just don't say it'll go away. Don't worry about it. We just gotta step down and step away from it. But I think that the problem that people had was that when he was talking about it, there was aggression in his clowning too. Like he was like really frustrated. And then he said, like, I don't know if he mentioned Lord Jamar by name, but he did. Okay, he said he's a loony bin, like he's a crazy, and went into his flat earthing and all this kind of stuff. Where like, man, everybody came out the woodworks, man.
Yeah. Also, I think that pressure of a lot of this generation is a little more aware, which causes some problems. Like for example, they're really big on who should and shouldn't say the word nigga. But if you step foot in New York, man, you know that all that go out the window. Ain't no way you can have these rules and be in New
Right.
York. You know what I mean? It's gonna make your head explode. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? I had one of the toughest white Puerto Rican looking dudes, and he was saying it, just letting it fly. And I'm like, I'm supposed to be like, I'm not gonna stand for this. Like, he gonna jump me. But yeah, I think they was on Fat Joe pretty heavy about that. He like, man, I've been saying this before you was born. So it's a lot of that. So I'm pretty sure you're right. He got caught up in all that.
Well, I'm glad that Ramsey brought something up. Um, Speaking on the culture, because I come from a Harbor City, which is it's a not South Bay like the Bay Area up north, but like South
Hmm.
Bay, Los Angeles County, and the projects, and I'm still in Harbor City. The projects that are like 5 minutes. Well, they're not there no more. They took them down, but they were 5 minutes from my house.
Right.
That's where war came from, and to tie it in, it's interesting how Ramsey said, it was blacks and Puerto Ricans in Harbor City. War was a couple white people, it was black people, and it was Hispanic people, Mexicans. And I'm sure what was going on in New York is what was going on out here, where you get this musical thing going on. Here, it was just like war and the soul music and the music that they were making. And then in New York, it was hip hop, but it kind of made the bridge for the Hispanic girls to get with the black dudes and the black dudes to get with the Hispanic girls as well in New York. I'm sure that before hip hop, there probably wasn't that intermingling thing so much with the Puerto Ricans and the blacks. But then once you get this thing that's larger than people, which is music, then it's like, man, I've had homeboys tell me, you ain't been to New York unless you done been to the Puerto Rican Day Parade, man. Like,
Right.
they're like, man, you have not seen anything.
But at the time, when I was growing up, a lot of there wasn't any segregation with music back in that time, because I listened to, like, in the neighborhood, you could hear like the Edgar Winter group, like the song Frankenstein, and then in the same turn you would hear like James Brown's Give It Up, Turn It Loose, or a little bit of what they didn't call it disco then, but it was like funk, um Ohio Players, Samande. You would hear a lot of different music, and it was like in rock. We would hear a lot of rock music. So to us, it was just good music, but it all intermingled, and everybody was listening to it, and that's what it was like. It was multicultural. New York has always been multicultural. So we've been exposed to so many different types of music, different types of cultures, like Latin music, hearing Latin music, and funk, and Jamaican music, and I would say I even wasn't familiar with reggae until like the 80s. Bob Marley became like international superstar. So I didn't. The only thing I could associate with reggae was I heard Eric Clapton doing "I Shot the Sheriff," which is a watered down version of Bob Marley's version. That was the only thing I could say that was close to reggae for me. And then I realized, nah, that's not reggae. After I heard Bob Marley, I was like, oh, okay, that's the real thing. Bob Marley is the authentic music, reggae music.
I like how this is funny hearing you guys casually bring up things that happened 40 or 45 years ago. It's very casual to you.
Yeah. All right, young blood.
I mean, I got like 20. I can go back 20 years, and I'll be going back like half a decade, like, or half a millennium, and be like, yeah, I remember exactly where I was at that time. I'd be like,
yeah,
was Washington there? was Jim Crow era? No, I was like,
yeah. Or Jim Crow was further way back. My time.
But yeah, his perspective is interesting though. But yeah, what's your favorite medium to consume hip hop?
What's my favorite medium of?
Yeah, to actually consume music in general. Like, what's your favorite medium?
Oh my dude, I still buy vinyl,
Mm,
CDs, but vinyl more so because I DJ
mhm,
sometimes, and the music that I collect, I like go deep down into like the where you say the Pandora's box. I like to go deep in to find rarities,
uh-huh,
whether it be funk, whether it be psychedelic music, or like stuff from other countries that are like have funky break beats or whatever. I'm always like a curator. I'm like a curator, and I like to discover new shit. So, I'm always, my ears are always open for like the weird and unusual stuff. And I found a lot of stuff over the years. I have a lot of records in my closet, but that's the medium I use. A lot of times to find new music, I go on Bandcamp.
mhm,
I go on. There's a station in Seattle called KEXP. I listen to
mm,
that. But Bandcamp. And sometimes I go on YouTube. I look at like certain videos that like I go in a rabbit hole. Like I said, finding like rare stuff, rare funk. I like to go deep. So
mhm,
rec vinyl is more my medium. But I listen to
mhm,
everything. Cassettes. I have cassettes still.
mm.
Um, yeah, pretty much CDs and vinyl. So those are the three. But vinyl's number one for me.
Okay.
So, to get into your bloodline
Hmm.
and your lineage, Ramsey is the elder brother of rest in peace, old dirty bastard. Um,
Hey.
Cousin to the Jizza and the RZA. And it's crazy. Those genes are strong, man. You look like the RZA, man. Like you can tell that you and the RZA are definitely, for if
Yeah.
someone knew that you were related, you're like, damn, them genes is you can't outrun the genes. I'll tell you
So
that.
RZA is from my father's side of the family.
Oh, okay.
Papa Wu is from my mother's side of the family.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mhm,
so I'll get into that of how um, Jizza was a cousin through marriage.
Okay.
So on my father's side of the family, but RZA is my first cousin.
mhm.
So his family they used to live in Crown Heights, I believe in Brooklyn.
That's my
And
grandfather
we used
said.
to always visit each other because we lived in Brownsville, and we would always like visit each other's house and just like just play music or whatever, hang and play out in the street or whatever. And then they around 1975 they decided to move to Staten Island, and so we would go visit them in Staten Island. They would visit us, and by that time we moved from Brownsville to East New York, like right near Lefferts Boulevard. No, Linden Boulevard, right before Howard Beach. So my cousins would come out and visit us, and we just the same thing. We uh, carry on the lineage of listening, linking together through music. And my cousin was getting into rapping at the time. We were listening to Fat Boys and Curtis Blow, Grandmaster Flash, and the Furious Five. So he started writing his rhymes in notebooks, and he would rhyme. RZA would rhyme to me. I'm like, yo, you're very talented. And me, I was into like learning my instrument, playing. I was playing drums, and at the time, and my parents, they couldn't afford a drum set, so I was playing break beats on telephone books in the bedroom, and we apparently acquired like two turntables and a mixer over the time that rap was burgeoning. And my brother ODB Russell Jones, he wasn't rapping at the time, but he was like looking up to RZA, because RZA was the one that like kind of like instigated the whole rap thing, like rhyming. And then I remember one day RZA brought Jizza over to our apartment in Linden Plaza,
Mhm,
and he said, "Yo, this is your cousin Jizza, or Gary." And he was Gary was like quiet at the time, and I remember RZA uh, said, "Yo, we should make a hip hop tape." So we got uh, Juice, Catch the Groove, and 2 copies. We like scratched up the break beats in the break in both songs, both records, back to back. Just use that break, and RZA be rhyming over it, and then Jizza started rhyming. I was like, oh wow. So I was like, okay. It was like they were killing it, man, together. My brother would like observe them. He wasn't rhyming at the time, but years later, he started to get his confidence and do his thing, and he fell in easily with them. And then they called themselves the All In Together Now crew, and they actually made a record, a 12-inch. So, and it came out, and I never heard. I don't even know what it sounds like to this day. But I remember it was an orange label. It was RZA, Jizza, and ODB.
Was dope that you're bringing up, and it's something that I miss from you. It was reminiscent of my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have cousins, and the thing was, when you got together, you wanted to put each other on the different type of music. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you'd have cousins that lived on another side of town or another state, and they're into what they're into. And when you know there's going to be a gathering and you guys are going to be together, it's like, okay, I got to bring mine out. And then they bring theirs out. And then that was like a way that I just remember fellowshipping with my cousins, like just that tradition of exchanging the music.
Indeed. Like I tell you, my cousin RZA used to tease me because I was into the Beatles. I was more like into like rock, but I grew up on disco. I grew up on the top 40 stuff like Fleetwood Mac, Elton John. But my heart was into Hendrix, the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, the Stones. So when my cousin would come over to the house and hear me playing I Want to Hold Your Hand, he was like, man, why are you listening to that white boy music? I was like, this is just music. It's not white boy music. But I've always I had an open mind to every form of music. To me, it's music. My mother and father encouraged it. So I was like open to everything. And then years later, as Wu-Tang started, RZA ended up playing chess with Yoko Ono, which is like came full circle. It's crazy. I said, you used to tease me about listening to the Beatles and you're playing chess with Yoko Ono. So,
I understand that what Flavor Flav is your cousin as well?
That's what I found out. And matter of fact, I'm gonna tell you a story about that. I was went to a Broadway play with my wife and son on 42nd Street. And after this play, we go to Red Lobster. And we get upstairs and sit down at the table. And we sit down at the table, and in the background, I hear, yeah, boy. And I said, holy crap, is that Flavor Flav? I get up, I said, hey, Flav. And then I introduced myself. I tell him who I'm related to. He said, yo, we're cousins. And I was like, what? He said, yeah, we're cousins. He said, look, I'm having dinner with my family. But yeah, I was like, okay. And I walked away. I said, Flavor Flav just told me we're cousins. We're related. So yeah, I didn't believe it, but yeah, it is true.
That's crazy. I was at Mel's Diner in Hollywood, right? And me and my boy was sitting there, right? And we was talking, and then Flavor Flav was across the way. We saw him. It was like, I don't really want to bother him too much, you know what I'm saying? But then next he's just like, yeah, boy, same thing. Like he's hollering at us. And I'm like, oh, snap. So he come over and he was like, hey, man, I don't know if you noticed, but we cousins. And I was like, what? You us too? Then went to my friend. He was like, hey, man, we cousins too. No, I was playing.
Yeah, and
I did see him at Mel's Diner though. That's like the first time I met him. No, he was real cool.
He's real cool. Very talented. Man, plays like what 9 different instruments, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, we're related. I believe on my mother's side of the family.
Hmm.
you know. But yeah, that's all I know. I don't have any more information about that, but
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, I'm not
yeah,
gonna lie. I was just looking here, and I was thought that was an interesting tie that I feel like people didn't know. So I was like, oh, I wonder if there's more to that.
yeah. Well, it'll be one day I'm gonna actually talk to Flavor Flav and get to the depth of our like what the connection in our family. So I'll get
Hmm.
all that. I'll find that out in the near future.
That's funny.
But yeah, so
Mhm.
yeah, growing like I said, like at that time, growing up in Linden Plaza, and we had the means of making our music. We Jizza and RZA, they would come over our house, and we would make literally our own hip hop tapes. I had a Casio keyboard. I
Mhm.
had a drum machine, so I would like play break beats on it, or I would take a headphone and use it as a mic, put it under a shoebox, and play break beats on it, and they would rhyme over that. So we use any means necessary to like utilize what we had, and just like make some dope stuff, dope tracks on cassette. And he brought it to school. RZA brought it to his classroom and played it, and they loved it. And he says, "Yo, cuz we should make some more tapes like that." And we did, like, I think we did maybe one more. We did one more tape, but then after that, we kind of like went our separate ways as far as music was concerned. And then I'm working in Tower Records in the '90s, no, Tower Video, and RZA's brother came by to visit me in Tower Video. He says, "Yo, cuz, um, Robert," that was his name at the time, Robert Diggs. He says, "Yo, Robert got everyone signed to a deal." I was like, "Everyone, like who?" He says, "Yo, he got your brother signed. He got Method Man." I'm like, "Method Man?" This is the first time I'm hearing these names. He said, "Yeah, they got a group called Wu Tang Clan." I was like, "Okay, all right, that's cool, that's great." Then he said he got them all individual deals. I said, "He got them all individual deals too?" I said, "Wow, that's new." And I remember they came to pick me up because they wanted my opinion on two songs they wanted to release. They wanted me to pick out which would be the single. So I get in the car with RZA. RZA's driving, and his brother Randy was in the passenger seat. So they're taking me in. They're driving me from Manhattan into Brooklyn to drop me off at Broadway East New York Station. And he said, "Yo, cuz, we got these two songs." So he plays "After Laughter Comes Tears," the song "Tears." After laughter, and I'm listening to
Oh,
it.
damn.
Uh, this is before it dropped, so I'm listening to it. I'm like, "Yeah, I like it." Then he says, "Now we got another one." So he plays um, "Cash rules everything around me. Cream get the money. Dollar dollar bill, y'all."
Hey.
Da-na. And I was like, "Yo, that should be the single." And RZA said, "You sure?" I said, "Yeah."
Mm.
I said, "Okay." You dropped me off at Broadway East New York. Rest is history. They put that out as a single.
Dope.
So yeah, those were the days, man. It was like I knew RZA was gonna like blow up, and he was determined, and he had a plan. He saw it through, and Wu Tang became the biggest hip hop group in the world.
Did
You
you
know,
know um that your brother would spread as much joy to the
yes,
world as he did your family as he evolved into this musician? Because I'm sure he didn't just all of a sudden get a personality and become this lovable people.
no, he was. My brother was always like that from the beginning. He was always had that quirky personality where like he was like a he was very mischievous,
Mhm.
but that was the thing about him. That was what he how he was so engaging to
Mhm.
people, and he never left the hood. He was like honest. It was true. It was, that's the thing about my brother I love, because he never like felt that money would take him away from what he was born in. You
what
know,
he was
he was
comfortable
always
with.
from the hood. He loved it. He loved where he was from. He never forgot where he was from.
Mhm.
You know, and we're all that way. You know, just we're not like overwhelmed or let ourselves be changed by success or money. You know, we're all down to earth. We love people, and this is how we were brought up. This is how my parents brought us up. So my brother was always an honest human being, very true to himself. It was freedom.
So
That's what I loved about him. Never left the hood.
I noticed. Well, you kind of named a couple of things, but what was like in your middle school? What was like your soundtrack for the songs that you like played a
Oh,
lot?
no,
You
we're
kind of
on
named
middle
a
school,
couple already.
man. You talking about like what, sixth grade, seventh
yeah,
grade?
6, 7, 8.
Yeah, name all those white songs you like.
Okay, okay. What during that time I was listening to, God, let me try to remember. Okay, I already named the artist, the Beatles, Hendrix, but I was listening to disco, like early disco, like um Sil Silver Connection. So they did a Fly Robin Fly, Fly Robin Fly.
Mm-hmm.
Um Swearing to God, Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. Um Damn, there's so much. James Brown, of course. Funky
So,
President, Cold Blood, um, God, Fleetwood Mac, Elton John. It was my taste was so varied because I listened to everything. Johnny Guitar Watson, Samande,
Yeah.
um, damn, so much.
The first
But
time you heard Parliament Funkadelic.
oh, Parliament Funkadelic. Oh, I played Mothership Connection to death. When that album dropped, man, I was playing that whole record from side one to side B every day. And when Flashlight dropped, forget it.
Man.
Flashlight was like us, there were certain records that came out at that time, like um Planet Rock was another one. Planet Rock was like it just ignited like a bomb in the like electricity, like people like reacted to it like so enthusiastically. Because that was like Kraftwerk.
You know the
I was
crate.
listening to Kraftwerk, the album Trans Europe Express. My cousin turned me on to that album in 75. I went to my
Man.
grandma Cuffy's house on Putnam Avenue in Brooklyn, where the mural is of my brother. The reason why the mural is there in Brooklyn of my brother is because of our grandmother's house was on that street, Putnam Avenue. But I'll never forget, we went over to visit my grandmother's house, and I went down to the basement. My cousin said, "Yo, I gotta play you this record." She pulls it out, shows it to me, and I see 4 white guys on the cover. Like, what's this? They got the close cropped haircuts. I'm like, he said, "Yo, this is Kraftwerk. They're playing this in the street. I heard Grandmaster Flash spin this." I'm like, word? He puts the record on. I was like, I was like, these 4 German cats are funky like this. And he
Hey.
let that record play, and I was like, Trans Europe Express. I was like, yo, and I took the needle off. Yo, this is bad. This is bad. My cousin said, "You want to borrow it?" I go, "Yeah." So I took it home, and the next record that dropped was We Are the Robots. And the DJs in the neighborhood, like my cousin DJ Watkins, I'm gonna give him a shout out. Look him up. He has like amazing history, but he spun that record and spun it back and forth, scratching. He was scratching with his behind and doing all his tricks, and I'm like, my jaw dropped. I'm like, holy crap! He scratched that record. That record was like that was another Kraftwerk record that hit the hood like a bomb. So I could understand when African Bambaataa heard that and put out Planet Rock. That was the connection. Because
I'm
he
gonna
got
tell you the props that are so first I'm gonna give props out Kraftwerk. I remember being in Germany and I remember having this feeling like, dang, some dudes in Germany,
yeah,
with some beats and synthesizers and keyboards, they created something that, man, they a tsunami. They truly like all the dance music and like that whole thing. And to me, Planet Rock was like African Bambaataa and them being blown back. Like we gotta like we've got to take this. Like this is we're gonna put our spin on it, but we're gonna do some music that's kind of like that.
Yeah, and they succeeded, and it just like opened up a door for like groups like Liquid. They did the song Cavern, Optimal, I believe, that doo-doom, 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 doo-doom,
Oh
which
yeah,
Grandmaster Flash or Melly Mel used White Lines when
yeah.
he did a song White Lines, which took from Liquid, that whole track. And people say, "Oh, that's White Lines." I'm like, "No, that's Liquid. You listen to the original; it's Liquid." They sampled it, and the group ESG, you know
Three times dope.
right, you know they were all sisters, you know, a band, but they put out like these how would you say, they call it no wave. You know, they were more like minimal track, like minimal songs that had like minimal instruments, but they had like interesting breaks in it, break beats or whatever. You know, that was the music that was happening at that time. It was very experimental and fresh. It was a lot of exciting new stuff that was being inspired, like hip hop mixed with punk, you know, influence and funk, like punk mixed with funk that was coming out at the time, you know, Gang of Four, you know, then you had trying to remember, Mantronics were coming out in the 80s, you know. So it's like the whole electronic thing was happening with, like I said, African Bambaataa being influenced by Kraftwerk, you know, and taking it a step further with Planet Patrol, Strafe, set it off
Crap,
on your
yeah.
left, raw, set it off on. So everything was influencing one another. It was like a like very intrinsic, you know, with like everyone being influenced, listening to like the hip hop and then punk and funk, and African Bambaataa was on top of that. You know, he was very open. His ears was attuned to all that. So you like Blondie, the Deborah Harry doing Rapture, you know? So everything interweaved and interconnected with each other. And it was a, hey man, this is an amalgamation of what's transpiring in New York. And it was all that was happening in New York. And it spread all over the world.
So when was the moment that you said to yourself, man, my family really has some contemporary roots in this hip hop stuff? Like, what was that pivotal moment where you hit, where it was like undeniable, like my family is they're on another, they're the superheroes of this hip hop thing?
You know, I want to be honest with you, I never thought of that.
Okay.
I was always like very proud of my cousins and my brothers' achievements of what they accomplished, you know. And I was following my own path with what I wanted to do, and growing up with them during when they were starting out, you know, and then they went off on their own, and RZA just like took it to a whole other level. I was very proud of proud of what he achieved, what Jizza and my brother achieved. That's how I felt. I was more in the background observing their development
You
and
know,
what they became.
one other thing I want to give RZA his props on, that Wu-Tang sound, like the first album,
Yeah.
like that first stuff,
Hmm.
uh on the West Coast, we had our way that we used the SP 1200, and how the drums hit a certain way.
Right.
But the way that RZA freaked it was just like, that was just like, oh
Yeah,
man,
it was
I
more
remember.
dirtier, grittier.
Oh
Um,
man.
and that's what he brought to the table. I mean, he strived to like bring out more of the rawness and the funk, the soulfulness, like the the tracks that he like Syl Johnson's Different Strokes. We used to scratch that in the bedroom. Like I said, we had two turntables in the bedroom and a mixer. And that record, Different Strokes, we had the breakbeat records with the octopus on the label.
Mm-hmm.
And was the breakbeat Lenny put that out, I believe.
Breakbeat Lou.
Breakbeat Lou, right? He put that out. I got to meet him years later, and I was like, "Yo, you literally set off like a revolution with those records, man." But my cousin used to scratch up Different Strokes, that break it. Baby, you laughing? And years later, I found out that woman that's laughing on that track is Minnie Riperton.
Well,
Wow.
I'm gonna give some
Young Minnie
props.
Riperton.
I'm gonna give some props to your family, because if they were scratching back then, they was
Hmm.
definitely scratching on some belt drive
Oh
turntable
yes, we had them.
before the Technique 1200 and the direct drive, and you could just easily scratch and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Scratching on a belt drive was like, man, that was like trying to scratch on some carpet or that was,
Exactly.
Mm.
But that was the thing, man. That was like, those records was intrinsic to hip hop, and to the growth of the music. And people tend to forget that those were bands playing that music. And bands are important to hip hop. Like you got the Roots now, and not and I'm proud to like have a band like the Funky Nomads to carry that further. And um, it's like continuing the tradition. Because people say, yeah, it's just should be the DJ and the rapper. I'm like, no, the bands are intrinsic to it too, because that's the music you're scratching. Those are bands playing that music. So it's I'm like I said, I'm very proud of Wu-Tang and of their status and what the creativity and individuality that they put on hip hop, that they brought to the table. I mean, they were fierce MCs. They just changed the game, So I I uh, I'm on those records too, so I feel like, yeah, I'm definitely a big part of that history also. So, and I'm thankful to my cousin RZA for allowing me to have my talents on those records, and Jizza for backing him up for those shows and being successful with it. So I'm very happy about that. And my brother ODB, he's rest in peace. He was a character, but beautiful human being. And his nieces and nephews, my nieces and nephews, his daughters and sons, they continue to carry on the tradition and legacy, and his wife.
Well, I seen was the Nas Wu-Tang concert, and watching his son is a
Yeah,
YDB or Young DB, man.
young
Yo,
DB.
he
Yeah,
has so much energy. I mean, just like, I hate to do the whole spitting image thing, but it was very surreal watching him, be his father. Like
yeah,
he didn't miss a beat, and he made, no offense to any of the other Wu-Tang members, love him to death, but he just brought so much energy to their show. You
Right.
know, like because I ranked it in my head like, you know, I try to take my biases out. Like, what was I most entertained by? And I remember number one. I went to the LA show, so this is like impossible. But number one was LL Cool J. Number two had to be well, okay, sorry, Busta Rhymes. Then you had Method Red, and then you had uh, Young DB. Man, he was
Yeah.
killing it. Like it was
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like it was like watching you know, like a
Watching my
time
brother all
machine
over
or
again.
like a race from the dead. It was really scary looking, but it was so
Yeah.
crazy. I just couldn't
Yeah.
imagine. Like he's like a Tasmanian devil flipping around the stage and stuff, man. Yeah, he's talented. He's
He's
talented.
just like his dad. He is just like his dad, you know. And I did some of those shows on that New York State of Mind tour
Yeah.
2 years ago,
Uh-huh.
and just seeing my nephew like perform like that, I'm like, wow, like, and he would come backstage, and I said, "Yo, nephew, I'm very proud of you," and he said, "Yeah, thank you, Unc," and
Mhm.
yeah, it's like seeing my brother again, you know, see like spitting image.
Mhm. Yeah, it's just one of
Question.
those moments. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, you go ahead, Jeremy. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I was just probably gonna say the same thing. It's just one of those moments because you acknowledge when the crowd like gets excited. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just
Hmm.
moments. And when he got on stage, it was crazy.
Yeah,
I just
Electrifying.
give him all the credit, man. Yeah.
So
thank you.
the elephant in the room.
Yes.
Did you have to audition to play the drums for your cousin, the genius?
Did I have to
Just
audition? No. I tell you how this came about, how he ended up wanting my band to play. So 2010, out of the blue, Jizza gives me a call. And he said, "Yo, cuz, you know, I realize I use a lot of musicians to back me up. And I totally forgot you're the musician in the family. You're the only musician in the family." I'm like, "Oh, yeah." I said, yeah. And he said, "You know what? I need a band to back me up for my shows." So I said, "All right." So I got a couple of guys that I knew for years, and one of my friends, the keyboardist named Vaughn McLeod, but he goes under the name Interfied. Interfied. We go back to the '70s. Like he grew up with RZA and Jizza also, so he knows he grew up with them in the '70s and '80s. I got him on keys, and I got a guitarist, bass player, Jabril on bass, Jabril Touré, on guitar, Jerome Jordan, and keyboard. I had two keyboardists. I had Interfied and Isamu McGregor, and yeah, we were backing him up. Also, Emmy Augustin. He was another keyboardist. So I had different keyboard players throughout the years, but we ended up doing Liquid Swords. And over time, we did the first show we did was in Irving Plaza, and Interfied wasn't in that lineup. But I had Jerome Jordan, I had Jabril Touré on bass, had another keyboard player, two keyboardists, but I forgot their names. And the show was okay, but it was the beginning of like what we eventually became.
mhm.
Um, but the Funky Nomads, I didn't even have a name for the band yet at that time. So it took me until like 2020, 22. Jizza's manager calls me up. He says, "Ramsey, every time we book a show with Jizza, you don't have a name for the band. We just have it as Jizza with live band. What do you want to name the band?" So I'm thinking of Pharaohs, and I'm like, Funky Nomads. He says, "Funky Nomads. Where did you get that from?" I said, "It just came to me, but spell it with a PH instead of F." So he says, "Okay," and then it stayed. This was like 2 years ago. I came up with the name, but the actual band that played with Jizza, I got together. It was in 2010. So we've been doing shows with my cousin ever since.
So
And it evolved, and we've been doing selections from Liquid Swords and Wu Tang and my brother's repertoire, and yeah, the audiences, they've been loving it, loving the shows, and plus I have a sampler now, So I add samples to the set, break beats to the show, so it gives it more. It brings it up to another level. So it's like that's like my deadly weapon now. But I love the connection that I have with my cousin, because he really backs me up and supports me, and you know, we've been going strength to strength, and I because Jizza, much love always, man. That's I want to say he's been there from the beginning for me, so I gotta give him love. Let my band still hold it down for him for all these years. That's all I can say on that.
What's your favorite hip hop movie?
Oh, my favorite hip hop movie. Jeez. Wild Style. Number 1. Number 2, Crush Groove.
These are correct answers.
I'll say How High, number 3.
No breaking. No breaking.
Breaking, yeah. I forgot breaking. Number. I would put that number. The same number as Crush Groove.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I'll put
man.
those at number 2. But like, How High, number 3, definitely.
Okay.
Your top 3 favorite producers.
Ooh, God.
Other than a family member.
Other than a family member. Okay, number 1. Pete Rock. Number 2, Jay Dilla. Number 3, Marley Marr.
Okay.
You know what? I wish that Jeremy's his age group could understand how hot Pete Rock was around 92, 93. Pete Rock was the Pharrell of 92, 93, 94. It was like,
indeed.
if you had a Pete Rock, I remember I was the second dude in LA with the DOS Effects microphone checker Pete Rock remix. And the reason I can say I was the second dude in LA, the dude who promoted the record, he was managing the Far Side at the time, and I was crashing on his couch, and he promoted records, and he gave me a copy, and I went to a party, and I was DJing at the time, and that was the first time I had ever gotten a record stolen, and I was crushed.
The only copy in LA, in Cali.
Dropped it, and it was like doom, doom, doom. It was a huge tune.
Yeah.
And I dropped it, and it was at this girl's party who was best friends with Kadada Jones. And at the time she was dating LL Cool J. And I remember you know, you really had to be rich to have Cristal. Like, and so this was like maybe 91, 92. And she walked into the party with a case of Cristal. And I just remember seeing her walk in with LL. She came in with the case of Cristal. And I was like, dang. So long story short, I dropped the remix. Everybody was like, ah. And then but Pete. So I finished spinning. So I walked away to get my props and the other little things that's ready for a DJ to just drop something dope.
Yeah.
I go back to start my next set, and I was going to drop it again, and it was gone. I was hurt.
Somebody was watching you leave the DJ booth. I'm gonna take this shit.
Somebody got you.
Yo, I want to add too, DJ Premier. I can't not have DJ Premier in that list, but he's got to be in that list. I know you said top 3, but for me, DJ Premier has to be in there.
Yeah.
is top producer, one of my
I was
favorite
saying,
producers.
did you listen to that Pete Rock Common Collab album they just made?
Which one?
They just made a collaboration
Oh,
album
the
called
Common. Yeah,
The
yeah, that's
Odyssey.
a great
Yeah,
album,
yeah,
man.
that's all. Yeah, yeah. I think bringing back those producer duos. You know what I mean? Like that's
Mhm.
like just a rapper and once because it just listening to one sound all the way through. You know, even with the new Kendrick album, I'm seeing he leaned more towards Mustard. I mean, just I think that's an element of hip hop that kind of got lost with
Yeah,
record companies and trying to make pop records and stuff. So it's kind of cool to see
right.
him
They're
kind of
using
return
different
some more.
producers on every track.
Hmm.
So the album sounds kind of schizophrenic.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, what's your top three MCs?
Ooh, man, it's hard to a top three. There's so many, dude. Okay. Number one, Rakim.
Oh,
Yeah.
Number
okay,
two, LL Cool J.
okay.
Number three, oh man. Mm, damn. Number three, KRS-One.
Hmm.
Uh, Big Daddy Kane.
And four. Hmm.
Oh, damn. It's I love Anderson Paak.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
you you made him
I
skip the
had to throw
line.
Anderson Paak in because
He
he's one
skipped
of
the
the few that
line.
rhyme and sing,
And
and he's an
drum.
amazing writer, producer. Um, damn, God, there's
Believe it
so
or not,
many,
he
bro.
was he
Coogee
was one
Rap,
of the first. He was one of the first people I met in LA.
really? Wow,
Hmm. Yeah,
wow.
that was it's through a friend of the show that we've had on a lot, but yeah, literally, I met him back when he was Breezy Lovejoy, and I mean, he was talented then, but who
Yeah,
knows,
I
could be as
heard the
big as
Breezy Lovejoy, and I was blown away. I said, this guy, he's gonna be huge. And I gotta give a shout out to Farside because I was in I went to do a show in Singapore with Pharoah Monch,
Yep.
and we
I
were
was
on the
there.
same bill with Farside. We were waiting for them at the airport because we actually we were staying at the same hotel and riding in the same van. So we were waiting for them at the airport. I think we landed, and it was a band that Pharoah Monch used, and I was the drummer, of course. And Farside came, and we got in the van, and I was like star tripping over, like just being in the same space with these guys.
I was
Fat Lip.
there.
Yeah, we rode in the same van back to the hotel. I'm like, I told Fat Lip, I said, yo, um, that album, your first album, blew my mind. I
Mm,
said, I literally saw when I worked at Tower Records, I just saw the cover. That's what prompted me to buy the record. 'Cause I saw the cover and I was like, yo, this looks like some interesting shit. And when I put on the first track and you had that little jam in the beginning and then oh shit came on, I'm like, okay, this is some different shit. And the album just blew my mind because the production was like sick. And I ended up meeting Jay Swift the next day. We played a festival. Jägermeister was hosting it, and I played with Pharoah Monch, got off the stage, and then I watched Farside do their thing, and they were killing it, man. And while I was watching Farside, some woman walks up to me to the barricade. I was standing behind the barricade, and the girl says, "Hey, I got to tell you something." And I'm looking at Farside, and I go, "Yeah, what do you want to tell me?" She says, "I'll let my friend tell you." She walks away. I'm watching Farside doing. She keeps on passing me by. No, running away, running away.
mm.
The girl that she sent over, that girl came over and says, "Hey, I want to tell you something. I want to have your baby." And I'm like, so I forgot totally all about the Far Side. I'm like, what did you say? She said, "I want to have your baby. You're so beautiful. You're so handsome." I'm like, I was like, wow. I looked at her, I was like, okay, tell you what, we can go to that tent over there. Jägermeister tent and make something happen. I said, I'm just joking. But yeah, we hung out with we hung out with Farside, man. It was beautiful, man. But I was starstruck. And I remember one of the members of Young Black Teenagers was with them, working with them.
I'll tell you what. Speaking of Pharaoh Monch, I'm gonna tell you one of my brothers in travel who he tour DJ'd with Pharaoh forever and probably still does now, whatnot.
Yeah.
Boogie Blind, man.
Boogie
He does
Blind.
not
Yep,
get
I
the
know
credit.
Boogie
He
Blind.
does not get it. And not that he needs it, but like Boogie Blind is dope. And he's a hell of a cool dude. You know what I'm
He
saying?
is.
But
Yeah.
dope. And I was so proud of him to see him on Shade 45 radio. I was like, man, if anybody deserved it, that cat, deserved. And as a matter of fact, I'll say I'm not going to mention the name, but it was a Far Side anniversary that had popped up, and so we wanted to do a mix to celebrate the album, and so we had went to this high name producer, not going to mention him, and I shot him the bread to do the mix. 1 week later, no mix. 2 weeks later, no mix. And I'm just like, oh man, what did I
He's got your money.
I'm like, was it the New York hustle on the LA dude? Like,
right.
I'm like, whatever. But I told Boogie Blind what happened, and he came in and he did a mix for us that was dope. You know what I'm saying? And I think I might have given him a little something, but he just understood the circumstances. And I was, man, we didn't have the money to really be doing that back then. But it was kind of like, okay, we want to celebrate the album, so we're gonna do it. But yeah, Boogie Blind came through like a mug.
That's great. That's beautiful, man. I love happy endings like that.
Oh man.
Never give your money to a producer before getting
man
or getting the goods, man. Yep. Gotta learn a lesson. But yeah, man. Wow. Yeah, but it was great, man. Just to like be in their orbit, man, and just just watching them do their thing and like their different personalities, and they were cool, man. They were cool. And Jay Swift also, man. It was great to meet them, and yeah, the show was really good. It turned out great, and Singapore was beautiful, man. But yeah, I just wanted to throw in that little story.
Say, what's your dream collaboration?
Oh, dream collaboration probably would be probably doing something with Premier or Pete Rock. With, let's see what I would have like as far as like rappers. Maybe maybe Kendrick Lamar. Damn. Getting the Cole. So J. Cole. I was watching also Nas and what was the other rapper he signed?
Hey, I can't think. I haven't said his name in a minute. I'll get it for a second. Yeah, I don't know what happened to him. He was popping for a minute though.
He was from the Bay Area.
Fred East or
Davies.
Oh,
yeah,
Davies.
Davies, yeah. Davies is dope, man. But yeah,
what happened to him?
something with Premier or Kit or Pete Rock. And it'd be cool to like Marley Marl, Pete Rock production and Premier, and have them produce like the current like rappers or like Dave East or damn, who else did I just mention? Like Kendrick Lamar. Give us some old school like boom bap flavor, I don't know. And I would probably, because I've always wanted to get into hip hop production myself because I do make up beats, make
Okay.
beats. So,
Okay.
you know, it, I wanted also to like produce my cousin's album, Jizz's album. I told him like we should get a new record because he needs a new album,
Mhm.
like like something like up to date, like current, but not like to try to fit in with other group artists that are out now, but still have that old school sound, the boom bap. But
Mhm.
his is it's really on him to decide whether he wants to make a record but he needs I see he needs a new record out.
I'll say this. I've listened to his NPR Tiny Desk
Mm-hmm.
with the Soul Rebels
Soul Rebels, yeah.
at least 30 times. At least 30 times.
Oh,
And that's
wow.
putting it very mild, man.
Yeah,
That's putting it that's putting it very mild. I'm gonna hit you with the last one, man.
sure.
Um, you done stamped up a couple passports in the B-roll conversation we had before we went live. You
Mm-hmm.
talked about sprinter vans and trooping it through Europe and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. But with all that you've seen, what would you say is the most memorable performance, hip hop, punk, pop, whatever, that you've ever been in the same space and place and witnessed, with your own eyes?
The most memorable was when I played Medellin, Colombia, which is about October. I think we played in October, and it was pouring rain. Like they had a lot of major acts there, but I think I think Sepultura was on the bill, but I didn't get to see them. But anyway, we were one of the headliners, and mind you, Colombia, especially Medellin, Colombia is a rainforest. That whole city is a rainforest. So earlier that day, we did a sound check, and it was bright sunshine, no sense that it would rain. By the evening, it poured so much that our dressing room, the pavement to go out to the dressing room was flooded. We couldn't even get out that way. So one of the concert aides came in, they took down one of the walls in the back of the dressing room for us to get out. That was the only way we could get out of the dressing room. We had to get in a car that pulled up alongside the dressing room because it was flooded. But we got to the stage, and I remember playing out on that wet stage with Jizza in the pouring rain. The video is on YouTube, the whole concert, and it sounds amazing. It looks great, but the fans were so devoted. Just seeing the fans, dude, I was blown away. There was one fan that was actually that had a Wu-Tang flag, waving in the Wu-Tang flag and pouring rain. Rain didn't even like they didn't care. They were out there. They loved the music. They were out there cheering. I was like, wow, man. It was like you go to other countries like Europe, South America, man, or dude, they show their love for hip hop. They love hip hop, man.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing to see, So I would say that number one, that just the devotion and the love that they show for Jizza, for just in hip hop itself. Um, there was another one. I forgot the country we were in because when you play in Europe and everything becomes a blur. But I remember ASAP Ferg was on the bill with us. He went on after us, and that crowd was crazy. They were not going crazy, man. It was slam dancing in the front to ASAP Ferg's tracks. I was like, yo, it was blowing my mind. He jumps out into the audience. Like I was like, holy shit. But just being on the bill with those guys, man. It was a bunch of other artists, but my memory escapes me, man, because all becomes a blur. But the New York State of Mind tour with Busta Rhymes, and Nas. That was beautiful, man. Like watching Busta Rhymes every night with Spliff Star. Spliff Star is cool. He's cool
Hey,
people,
the
man. They got,
dopest hype man there is, man.
yeah, I love
He
Spliff
work
Star,
hard
man.
for the money, man. He gonna give
Yep.
it. He when people give now as an MC, Busta Rhymes stands on his own.
Yes, he does.
On the stage, Spliff Star needs to be mentioned in every sentence right
Yes,
along with it.
indeed, indeed.
They are that's a wild act, man. I'll tell you that. Like it's a tough act to follow for sure.
They give it their all, man, and I love watching. I love watching their chemistry. I love watching how they bounce off each other, man. And Nas, oh God,
Yeah.
Nas had a drummer, Hazer Mays, and he was playing to the tracks, but he was just giving the song so much more life. And that combination, man. I mean, Nas was every night was killing it every night, man. And I had the pleasure of like watching them back from backstage, or just filming them on my iPhone. And I was like, oh man, this is beautiful. And I would play with Wu-Tang. I played on some of the songs live with Wu-Tang, but watching those guys perform was just a whole it just made me as like a better musician, just watching how they perform. And I was like, okay, I see. And it gave me like motivation to like be better. They're not musicians, but still just the way they were able to do what they do in front of like large audiences like that, and just like take this art form of hip hop to another level every night, because this is their passion. This is what they do. And every night it's like something new. I love watching that.
For whatever reason, this conversation makes me remember one of my very good experience with a person that I know who's passed away. And I don't know how you remind me of him, because you guys are totally different. But I got to give a shout out to the late great Casey Benjamin, man. I met him when we did this tour in Australia, and Q-Tip brought him out, and he played everything from the sax to a baby Casio keyboard. Wow. to like a
multi-instrumentalist.
Yeah, like a DX7. And it's so funny because before I knew what Robert Glasper looked like, whenever they would show pictures of Robert Glasper and his band, Casey would be, for a long time, Casey stopped touring with him at some point, but Casey would always be there with his burgundy dreads and his saxophone or just whatever.
Yeah, I know the gentleman you're talking about. Yeah. He passed away last year.
Yeah. And man, he was a talented musician, man.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah, because I have musician friends who also knew him. I never knew him.
Okay.
But I was reading about him, and they were saying, wow, giving their condolences. I was like, wow. And it turned out that he died from blood clots.
Yeah.
And I almost died that way 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
10 years ago. Yeah. But my vein doctor saved my life. So I'm still here to do what I do. But yeah, I almost came close to ending up that way. But rest in peace, man. Rest in peace to him.
Where can people find your music?
Oh man, I have the bands that they can hear me, and also I write also with a lot of the groups that I play with. I have a band called Rebelmatic. We have a new album coming out called Black Hole of the Tornado, I believe, but I may be wrong. But we have an album, Ghost in the Shadows, that came out in 2020. And that's one of the groups. You can go on Apple, any streaming platform, you'll see our albums and EPs on those. Tidal, on Apple, Also, there's another group called My Alpha that I play in. It's also a punk band, but Afro progressive hardcore. We have an album out called Because We Are. You should check that out. We got a track on it that's like go go and hardcore, DC go go and hardcore, and it's called uh Before the Culture, I believe. For the Culture. It's called For the Culture on that album Because We Are. Check it out. Also check out uh I'm on the Iron Flag album, Wu Tang. Babies, the track Babies. Uh damn, it's hard to like remember the titles because it's so much.
Hey,
So I'm on the Iron Flag album. I did the song with Method Man, the Riddler on the Batman Forever soundtrack.
Oh
Played
wow.
bass and keys on that. So my name is in the credits. I did also the um, the W album. I'm on 2 tracks on that album. And Bobby Digital, the second Bobby Digital album, and the last one, Birth of a Prince. I'm on the very last track of that album. And I've done many like this groups like my band Funk Face from the 90s. We have a album Soul Sauce. You should check that out. If you like Fishbone, like Red Hot Chili Peppers, it's in that vein. It's real funky, but like rock funk. But yeah, it's of its own sound. So I've been involved in many, many different groups, man. I even did an album with Vernon Reid from Living Color that never got released.
Mm.
Yep.
well, I'll
Yep.
say this, man. This is the last time I'm gonna tell you today.
Yes.
You are so punk rock. So, punk rock dudes will do an album with whoever, like musicians just come together, they get together, they start playing a couple, and okay, we're gonna do an album. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And that's just that's or we're gonna be a band, we're gonna be a group, this is gonna be
Mhm.
the project, we're gonna do it. That's dope. That's real dope.
Also, I forgot to mention Funky Nomads. We have tracks on iTunes. Also, another project that I'm involved with is the Black Yacht Rock Club, which is my friend's Intified project. That's his project, but I have a song on it called "Sex You Up," which I wrote with and collaborated with Intified, and you should check out that project. It's called the Black Yacht Rock Club.
Okay.
It's just a
Well,
spin-off of yacht rock, but it's Black Yacht Rock Club. And also
okay.
Funky Nomads, we got 2 songs out. Funky Asiatic and also Fist in the Sky. In the Sky is called In the Sky. Yeah. So I got more projects, more albums coming out soon with Rebelmatic and Maafa and Funky Nomads. So I'll keep you posted.
Cool, cool. So
Yeah.
where can they find you online? What are your socials?
I'm on Instagram under Satellite Jones 65. On Facebook, Ramsey Jones, of course. And then I might probably may cancel my Facebook account because shit is changing now, with this, new regime coming into
Yeah,
office.
absolutely. Yeah.
But I'm still on Facebook and IG. So IG is Satellite Jones 65, Ramsey Jones on Facebook. Also, Funky Nomads on Facebook, PHUNKY Nomads.
Dope, dope. So with you, Jeremy, what you got coming up?
Well, first I'd like to go and promote my birthday comedy show. It's gonna be at the Comedy Store January 22nd. Is dressed as a rapper from the 2000s period, and I'll let you in free. But yeah, it should be it should be sold out, so that should be good. If you got nothing to do, we'll let it have you, Ramsey.
Nah.
Just pull up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, smooth. You know what I'm saying? Just pull up. It's gonna be good. You know what I mean? I also like to shout out Newfoundland. They've been rocking with us this whole time. Yeah, let me see. They said check out Chopped Liver Music. They have some music on there. So yeah, thank you, Newfoundland, for tuning in. Also, Dartmouth. Let's see who else. And Turia. Yeah, it was just whoever has been in the chat supporting us. That's pretty dope as well. But yeah, you can find me Jeremy Comedy on Instagram and Jeremy Scipio SCIPPIO. Everything else.com website. More dates this year. Also, I wanted to throw this out there because I know, like, look, I don't feel like I'm like new school hip hop. I mean, I feel like I'm old school too, but you got ancient old school and you got the kids.
How ancient.
So
we dinosaurs, Ramsey.
I know.
you speaking about things from 50 years ago like it happened yesterday. Anyway.
This is so fresh. Yo, that's fresh.
See, look.
We're too more freshy.
Dating myself with that one.
But what's his name? Jello Ball, D'Angelo Ball has a new song out called Tweaker. Check that out. This song is a throwback to people were joking about it. It sounded like it came out in 2005.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's my hip hop homework for you guys.
Give me the name again.
It's the Ball brothers. You know
LeVar Ball.
The Ball Bros.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
D'Angelo Ball has a song called Tweaker. It is the hottest
I'm checking
song out right now, period. You know what I'm saying? So there it is. That's the hip hop homework
Thank
for you
you.
guys.
And
I'm gonna keep doing that.
before we close out, you can check out the Booty Brown official Instagram, or you can go to my Instagram, SCHMOOCHE, and there is a GoFundMe in the link. The whole street that they live on, a week ago from today,
Yeah.
burned down, completely. I got one phone call before we started the podcast last week. And then I got another phone call right after we finished the podcast. And he said, it might be a little something. And then I got a call at 3:30 in the morning that it was just the block was gone. And so
it's heartbreaking.
There's so many people that need, but I'll speak on how I was directly affected and my folks, and you just, people just do what you can, how you can, but it's very heartbreaking. I feel I try to explain to people, this is like the whole COVID thing scrunched into a week, like as far as just seeing so much devastation and almost, I feel like, we shouldn't have to see this much pain. Like this is like in social media and the news. And it's like, and I'm not talking about necessarily the pain of the people that it affected, but I'm just saying the mass devastation. You know what I'm saying? Like you see the fires and just all that stuff. It's just like for me, it taught me that we're not in control. We're just passengers on the bus, and we just need to be grateful every day, and just really embrace people and attempt to not be petty, but not get abused in the same breath. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Definitely don't get abused, but there's larger things than like petty bickering. So with that being said, this has been another episode of Splendid Radio on Farside TV. Thank you, Ramsey. Great conversation.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Jeremy.
Absolutely.
Cool having you back again, Jeremy. You guys stay safe out there. Peace.